did a show talking about LeBron James being disingenuous, and one of the things I discussed on that was him saying how he's considering whether or not he would actually want to do a walk away quietly like Tim Duncan at the end of his career, or if he wants to do the farewell tour like Kobe and Kareem and those guys. And my whole thing was,
Tim Duncan just clapped back at LeBron James, and the NBA world instantly tilted sideways. The quietest legend of them all, the guy who dodged cameras, ignored debates, and never chased headlines for over 20 years, finally spoke up. And when he did, it landed harder than any highlight dunk ever could. This wasn't trash talk. This wasn't stat flexing. This was legacy warfare straight up. This was about respect, about credibility, about who actually earned their seat at the table, not just talked their way into it. Because when the most silent champion in NBA history breaks that silence, people stop scrolling and start listening. And trust me, things are about to get uncomfortable real fast. So let's rewind to where this whole storm really started.
Great coaching, persistence, drive, love for the game. We remember what happened last year and how it felt in that locker room, and we used it and built on it and got back here, and it's amazing. It makes last year okay.
17 years you have toiled side by side with Greg Popovich. What makes that relationship so special?
His fire. He brings it every year.
Early January 2025. LeBron James is doing what LeBron always does, controlling the conversation. He's in one of those relaxed media sit-downs, smiling, leaning back, feeling untouchable, ready to steer the narrative wherever he wants. It starts safe, longevity, dominance, still elite at 40. Nothing new there. Then comes that question. The one everyone knew was coming. Where does LeBron James rank all time? That's when LeBron leans forward, locks in, and gives that look. The look that says he's been holding this in.
And the one I can draw the parallel to is this. Is anybody going to sit here and tell me in their right mind that Barry Sanders is not one of the greatest athletes to ever walk the face of the Spurs, 100%. Regardless of just being a football player?
Right.
They came close to maybe, advancing through the playoffs.
Not that close.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But my point
you're right.
My point being, you wouldn't have a discussion about great players in the NFL without including Barry Sanders. But this is a different discussion. This is a very, when you're talking about winning.
I respect everyone who came before me, but let's be real, he says. And just like that, the tone flips. 5 rings don't mean what they used to, LeBron adds. The game's different now. The competition's different. He keeps pushing. Some guys spent their whole careers with the same superstar teammates. One system, one coach. That wasn't me. Different cities, different systems, different eras. I've got the stats, the championships, the finals, the MVPs, 10 finals appearances. I carried franchises, and I'm still doing it at 40. So when we talk GOAT, what else do you need? The interviewer tries to jump in, no chance. Let's be honest, LeBron finishes. Some legends had it easier than they admit. Elite teams built for them. I built mine the hard way. That's just facts. And just like that, the clip detonates within hours.
David.
Okay.
Bench Manu, and I'll cut the French boy. Can I do it again?
Wait, I got start, bench, cut. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James.
No, I refuse to answer that one.
You can't plead the fifth.
I will start all 3 of them and cut and bench myself.
That is the correct answer. That's the correct answer. Okay, how about this?
Twitter lights up. Instagram floods with reaction videos. TikTok starts breaking it down frame by frame. Line by line, word by word. Every sentence gets replayed. Every pause gets analyzed. Every eyebrow raised turns into a debate. And here's the key part. LeBron never says a single name. He doesn't have to. Everybody knows exactly who he's pointing at. The comments go nuclear. He's talking about Duncan. Those Spurs rings were easier. 5 titles with 1 franchise isn't the same. Finally, someone said it out loud. Then the pushback hits just as hard. Imagine having to explain why you're the GOAT. 5 rings is 5 rings, period. Tim Duncan never ran his mouth like this. Sports shows jump all over it. The hot take machine goes into full meltdown mode. Every analyst picks a side. Every panel turns it into a shouting match. But what nobody saw coming was the response quietly loading in the background. Because while LeBron was dominating headlines, somewhere in San Antonio, the most low-key champion the league has ever seen was paying attention. And for the first time in 20 years, Tim Duncan was bothered. That's why this matters. 19 seasons, 5 championships, 3 finals MVPs, 2 regular season MVPs, 15 All-NBA selections. A resume louder than any microphone could ever be. And through every GOAT debate, every viral clip, every argument, Duncan stayed silent. No media tours, no branding, no narrative pushing. He didn't sell himself, he just won. Then he went home. While other legends chased commercials and cameras, Duncan was fixing old cars and keeping it low. No noise, no chest beating, just banners. And that's exactly why what happens next hits different. Because Tim Duncan wasn't on TV. He was coaching youth basketball. In his spare time, the man retired and barely made a ripple. No farewell tour, no documentary rollout, no dramatic final season, no last dance moment. He played his final game, walked away, and disappeared. That's Tim Duncan, the anti-celebrity, the anti-brand. A rare superstar who cared so little about attention that it accidentally turned him into a legend. While everyone else chased cameras, Duncan ran from them. He stayed allergic to the spotlight. Teammates used to joke that he'd win finals MVP and act like he just finished a regular Tuesday practice. No chest pounding, no emotional speeches, just fundamentals and silence. But here's what people forget about quiet guys like Duncan. They see everything. They hear everything. They remember everything. And when they finally speak, it lands different. It lands heavier because, it's not for clicks, not for attention, not for narrative. It's because a line got crossed. And by mid-January, LeBron's comments crossed that line. Whispers started moving through basketball circles. Duncan was spotted at a private charity event. Nothing flashy, just former players, fans, and a good cause. But word travels fast. Someone heard something. Then someone told someone else. Then suddenly, rumors were everywhere. Duncan allegedly said the new generation was rewriting history. That modern players weren't respecting what came before them. And people close to the situation said he wasn't calm, he was heated. Pause right there. Tim Duncan doesn't get heated, at least not publicly. So if he was bothered, that's not small. That's massive. That's seismic. Then the breadcrumbs started dropping. Manu Ginobili, Duncan's longtime teammate, posts an Instagram story. Just a photo of championship rings laid out on a table. No caption, no explanation, no emojis, but everybody got the message. Then Tony Parker pops up on a podcast. They ask him about the GOAT debate. He smiles and says, some players play the game the right way. Team first, ego last. That's real winning. No names, no shots, but the message was loud. No names mentioned, no direct shots fired. But the timing was way too perfect to ignore. The Spurs family was clearly circling the wagons, and Tim Duncan himself stayed silent, which somehow made everything louder. That's when people started asking the question nobody ever thought they'd ask. Is the big fundamental finally about to speak? By late January, the entire basketball world was holding its breath. LeBron's comments had been viral for weeks. The debate was everywhere, TV, podcasts, social media, but it still felt unfinished. Like everyone was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then the rumors got louder. NBA insiders start tweeting. Hearing Tim Duncan may be considering a rare interview soon. Nothing confirmed, but sources close to him said he was open to talking. Then another reporter jumps in. Multiple outlets have reached out to Duncan recently. That alone was shocking. This is the same guy who declines everything. No interviews, no media runs. But this time, he was actually thinking about it. Speculation goes crazy. Is he really going to respond? Is he going to address LeBron directly? What could Duncan possibly say after all these years that would even matter? Here's the thing about legends. When they stay silent for 2 decades, their voice becomes priceless. Every word matters. Every sentence turns into a headline. And Duncan knew it. If he was going to speak, it wouldn't be reckless. It wouldn't be emotional rambling. It would be deliberate, precise, and devastating in the quietest way possible. Behind the scenes, Duncan's phone was blowing up. Agents, media executives, former coaches, all saying the same thing. You don't need to respond to this. And that's exactly how you know something big was coming. Some people told him to stay above it. Ignore the noise. Don't get dragged into the circus. But others kept pushing him. Someone has to set the record straight. And if it's not you, then who? Duncan was torn. Part of him truly didn't care. He never needed validation, never chased praise, never begged for approval. And that inner conflict, that's where this story turns real. Why start now? That was the question pulling at him. But the other side of Tim Duncan, the competitor, was done watching the story get twisted, done watching arrogance get brushed aside as context, done with the idea that what he and his teammates built somehow wasn't as hard, wasn't as earned, wasn't as meaningful. That implication didn't sit right with him, not even a little. So he made a decision. One interview, one moment, one chance to say his piece. And then he'd disappear right back into his quiet life. What Duncan didn't realize was this. What he was about to say would echo through basketball history. January 28th, 2025. Tim Duncan sits down for a rare interview. Not ESPN, not a loud debate desk. A low-key basketball podcast. Exactly the kind of place Duncan would choose. The host is clearly nervous. This is the biggest guest he's ever had. And everyone listening can feel it. They start safe. Duncan talks about life after basketball, his foundation work, coaching his kids' teams. He's relaxed, smiling. Classic Duncan, humble, grounded, perfectly comfortable without attention. Then about 15 minutes in, the host takes a breath and goes there. Tim, I have to ask, he says, there's been a lot of talk lately about legacies and greatness. LeBron made some comments a few weeks ago that went viral. Have you seen them? And do you have any thoughts? The room shifts. You can feel it even through the audio. Duncan pauses, not because he's unsure, but because he's choosing his words. Then he speaks calm, steady, and deadly confident. I saw them, Duncan says. I've stayed out of these debates my entire career because I never thought they mattered. I played to win championships. I played to be the best teammate I could be. I played because I loved the game. What people said about me afterward, that was never my concern. The host nods because he knows that wasn't the answer. That was the setup. Duncan continues, calm, steady, but now you can feel the shift. I think there's something important that needs to be said, he adds. I'm going to say it once, and then I'm done with it. 5 championships aren't easy. They're not just numbers on a resume. Each one represents years of sacrifice. Duncan says, months of grinding, trusting your teammates, buying into something bigger than yourself. Even when people tell you that you need more help. He leans back slightly. I played with incredible players, he continues. Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, David Robinson before them. Then he drops the part people weren't ready for. But here's what people don't understand. Duncan says, we made each other better because none of us needed to be the guy. We just needed to win. That line hangs in the air. The host asks carefully, are you saying modern players don't have that mentality? Duncan doesn't hesitate, not even a second. I'm saying there's a difference between being great and needing everyone to call you great, he says. Some people play to win. Some people play to be remembered. And those aren't always the same thing. Dead silence? The host tries to pivot, too late. Duncan isn't finished. Championships aren't about where you played or how many teams you went to, he continues. They're about sacrifice. They're about making your teammates better. They're about showing up every night, not just when the cameras are on. He pauses, lets it sit, then adds quietly, almost casually, if you need to keep telling people you're the best, maybe you're trying to convince yourself. That's it. The interview goes on for another 10 minutes, but none of it matters. That clip is already moving. Within an hour, it's everywhere. Within 2 hours, it has more views than LeBron's original comments. The basketball world detonates. The big fundamental just dropped the hammer. The most direct thing he's ever said, and somehow still respectful. And here's the genius of it. He never says LeBron's name. Not once. No yelling, no arguing, just cold facts delivered clean. And that's exactly why it cuts so deep in the most devastating way possible. The fallout is instant and it's massive. Social media turns into a full-blown war zone. Team LeBron versus Team Duncan. Stats versus rings. Individual greatness versus team success. The GOAT debate officially goes off the rails. Now it's on steroids. Analysts start breaking down every single word of Duncan's response like it's playoff film. pausing, rewinding, reading between the lines. One commentator says, Tim Duncan has never engaged in this conversation ever. For him to speak now tells you everything about how he feels about these narratives. Another analyst pushes back. But is Duncan being fair, they ask. LeBron had to move teams, adapt to different eras, carry franchises, and that's where the generational divide cracks wide open. Younger fans are confused. They grew up in the LeBron era. To them, Duncan feels like a name from a history book. Why does Duncan's opinion even matter, they ask. But older fans get it instantly. They remember Duncan dismantling elite teams year after year. No flash, no theatrics, just fundamentals, discipline, team basketball. They remember championships built on trust, not highlights, not viral clips. Former players start chiming in. Some back Duncan hard. He's right, they say. The game's become way too focused on individual glory. Others defend LeBron. One retired all-star fires back. Let's be honest. Duncan had elite help his entire career. Let's not act like he did it alone. And here's where it gets really interesting. LeBron still hasn't responded, not publicly, for a guy who usually addresses everything. That silence is loud. Does he ignore it and look like he can't handle criticism? Or does he respond and risk looking defensive? Either way, it's a lose-lose and everybody knows it. And what makes this even crazier? This story hasn't even hit the major mainstream outlets yet. It's still living in basketball circles, social media, podcasts, YouTube. But once ESPN grabs it, once the morning shows jump in, once casual fans hear about it, this thing's going to explode. It raises a much bigger question.